The Quiet Revolution: How Embracing Your Softness Becomes Your Superpower. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I recently had the extraordinary privilege of sitting down with Pretti Brown, the visionary creator behind the Soft Girl Era podcast. For those who haven't encountered her transformative work, Pretti isn't just creating content, she's igniting a movement that's reshaping how we understand power, especially for Black women in professional spaces. Through her platform, she's created a sanctuary where high achieving women can exhale, where vulnerability isn't weakness but wisdom, where ambition doesn't require sacrifice. Her work has touched thousands of lives, giving women permission to thrive without burning out, to succeed without suffering, to lead without losing themselves. What struck me most during our conversation was a profound insight that feels both revolutionary and is somehow deeply familiar. The most sustainable path to success isn't through relentless hustle and grinding ourselves to dust, it's through embracing our softness as our greatest strength. Now, I know what you might be thinking: softness in this economy, in this world that demands we show up armored and battle ready. But that's exactly the point. We've been sold a dangerous myth that to succeed, particularly as Black women, we must be titanium strong, never vulnerable, always pushing through pain, always saying yes, always being twice as good to get half as far. This narrative isn't just exhausting, it's destructive. It's stealing our joy, compromising our health, and ironically, limiting our impact. Today, I want to challenge that narrative. I want to share what I learned from Pretti Brown about how embracing softness, not as weakness, but as a deliberate, powerful choice, might be the most revolutionary act of leadership available to us. Let's start with what softness isn't. It isn't being a pushover, it isn't abandoning ambition, it isn't settling for less. Softness is strategic, it's intentional. It's the wisdom to understand that sustainable success requires rest, boundaries, and the courage to prioritize your well being alongside your achievements. During our conversation, Pretty shared something that stopped me in my tracks. She said, "The world will take everything you're willing to give until there's nothing left. The soft girl revolution is about deciding what you're willing to give and what you need to keep for yourself." This perspective flips the script on how we've been taught to view professional dedication. We've normalized burnout as a badge of honor. We celebrate the 80-hour work week, the missed family dinners, the chronic exhaustion. We've internalized the belief that our worth is measured by our productivity. But what if that's fundamentally wrong? What if our greatest contributions come not from depleting ourselves, but from operating from a place of wholeness? Pretty introduced me to the concept of strategic softness, the deliberate practice of creating boundaries that protect your energy, prioritizing rest as productivity, and approaching leadership through the lens of sustainability rather than sacrifice. She shared the story of Melinda, a C suite executive at a Fortune 500 company who was known for her exceptional leadership. For years, Melinda operated on what she called hustle autopilot: first to arrive, last to leave, always available, always on. She prided herself on this work ethic until a health scare forced her to reevaluate everything. During her recovery, Melinda realized something profound. Her team had continued to thrive in her absence. This wasn't because they didn't need her, but because she had unconsciously created a culture that valued constant availability over strategic presence. When she returned, she implemented what she called her soft power protocols: strict boundaries around her time, delegating more decisively, and prioritizing her well being as non negotiable. The result? Her team's productivity increased, retention improved, and most surprisingly to Melinda, her influence and impact expanded rather than diminished. This isn't an isolated case. Research consistently shows that rest enhances creativity, improves decision making, and increases overall productivity. Yet we continue to glorify exhaustion and wear busyness as a status symbol. Why? Because we've confused motion with progress, activity with achievement, sacrifice with success. Pretti Brown's work challenges us to ask, what if the path to our greatest impact isn't paved with our exhaustion? During our interview, she shared another perspective that resonated deeply. She said, the soft girl revolution isn't about doing less, it's about being more intentional about what you do. It's quality over quantity, impact over optics. This intentionality extends beyond work habits. It encompasses how we show up in rooms, how we communicate, how we advocate for ourselves. Consider the traditional image of leadership: assertive, uncompromising, dominant. These traits are not only gendered, but often racialized. Black women who embody these characteristics frequently face backlash and labels that their white counterparts escape. But what if effective leadership doesn't require mimicking these traits at all? Pretti shared the story of Tasha, a department director who struggled with being heard in executive meetings. Initially, Tasha tried to match the aggressive energy of her colleagues, speaking louder, interrupting more, adopting a more forceful communication style. The result? She was labeled difficult and aggressive. Through mentorship, Tasha discovered that her natural communication style, thoughtful, collaborative, empathetic, wasn't a weakness to overcome, but a different kind of strength. She stopped trying to outshout her colleagues and instead focused on the quality and timing of her contributions. She prepared meticulously built strategic alliances, and learned to command attention through presence rather than volume. Today, Tasha is recognized as one of the most effective leaders in her organization, not because she learned to be louder, but because she learned to leverage her natural strengths rather than apologize for them. This is the essence of the soft revolution, recognizing that there are multiple paths to power and influence. That effectiveness doesn't have a single face or voice. That sometimes the softest voice in the room can be the most impactful. But embracing softness requires something that many of us struggle with: permission. Permission to prioritize ourselves, permission to set boundaries, permission to define success on our own terms. During our conversation, Pretti emphasized that this permission can't come from external validation, it must come from within. She shared a powerful affirmation that she repeats daily: I give myself permission to succeed without suffering. My worth is not measured by my exhaustion. This internal permission becomes particularly crucial when we consider the unique pressures faced by Black women in professional spaces. The strong Black woman trope doesn't just exist in cultural narratives, it shapes expectations in boardrooms, performance reviews, and promotion decisions. Pretti noted that for Black women, embracing softness isn't just a personal choice. It's a radical act of resistance against stereotypes that deny us our full humanity. It's reclaiming our right to vulnerability, to care, to boundaries, to rest. She shared the story of Dr. Maya, a renowned surgeon who built her reputation on being available around the clock, never showing weakness, never asking for help. Dr. Maya was the embodiment of the strong Black woman until she wasn't. Her breaking point came after missing her daughter's birthday for the third consecutive year due to emergency surgeries. What Dr. Maya realized was that no one was forcing this schedule upon her. She had internalized expectations that she believed were required for her success. When she finally established firm boundaries around her time, implemented systems that allowed her to be present for important family moments, and built a team she could genuinely delegate to, something unexpected happened. Her colleagues respected her more, not less. Her patients received better care because she was rested and fully present. And perhaps most importantly, she discovered that her worth wasn't tied to her constant availability. This is the counterintuitive truth at the heart of the soft revolution. Setting boundaries doesn't diminish your impact, it enhances it. Prioritizing rest doesn't make you less productive, it makes you more effective. Embracing vulnerability doesn't weaken your leadership, it makes it more authentic. But how do we begin this transition? How do we move from the familiar territory of hustle culture to this new paradigm of strategic softness? Pretti Brown offered three practical starting points. First, audit your energy. For 1 week, track what depletes you and what energizes you. Be specific. Which meetings leave you drained? Which tasks fill you with purpose? This awareness is the foundation for intentional boundaries. Second, practice the power of the pause. Before automatically saying yes to requests, create space between the ask and your answer. A simple, let me check my calendar and get back to you, creates room for discernment. Third, identify your non negotiables, the commitments to yourself that you will protect regardless of external demands. This might be morning meditation, family dinner, or a full weekend day unplugged from work. Whatever they are, defend them as fiercely as you would any professional commitment. These practices might seem small, but they represent a fundamental shift in how we relate to ourselves and our work. They are the building blocks of a sustainable approach to success. As our conversation drew to a close, I asked Pretty what she hopes her legacy will be. Her answer was simple yet profound. I want to be part of creating a world where Black women don't have to choose between their success and their sanity, where we can achieve everything we're capable of without sacrificing our joy, our health, or our peace. This vision isn't just about individual well being, it's about collective liberation. Because when we free ourselves from the tyranny of hustle culture, we create space for others to do the same. When we model boundaries, we give permission for others to establish their own. When we prioritize our well being, we demonstrate that humanity and achievement aren't opposing forces. So today, leave you with this challenge. What would change in your life if you embraced your softness as strength? What possibilities might open up if you stop measuring your worth by your exhaustion? What impact might you have if you led from a place of wholeness rather than depletion? The revolution begins with a choice, your choice, to value yourself beyond what you produce, to define success on your own terms, to recognize that your softness, your capacity for empathy, for connection, for discernment, isn't something to overcome, but something to cultivate. In a world that profits from your self doubt and exhaustion, choosing yourself becomes an act of revolution. In spaces that expect your sacrifice, prioritizing your well being becomes a statement of your worth. In systems designed to extract maximum output with minimum support, creating boundaries becomes an assertion of your humanity. The power of softness lies not in its gentleness, but in its sustainability, not in its compliance, but in its authenticity, not in its yielding, but in its wisdom. So take a deep breath, give yourself permission, and remember in the words that Pretty shares with such conviction, a soft Black woman is a dangerous thing to underestimate. The world is waiting for the revolution that only your authentic self can lead. The question is, are you ready to embrace the power of your softness? Thank you.